Data breaches, data breaches, data breaches, ransomware attacks. It's all we hear about in the news anymore. Everything is going on. But did you know that a data breach doesn't necessarily have to mean a breach in your customer's trust? So join us today on this episode of The Ungrowth Show, and we'll tell you how to overcome some common issues and mistakes. So, Mike, we're going to start out today's episode of the Ungrowth Show just kind of shooting the breeze, like two bros do. But did you hear? And this is really news came out last week. Didn't make it widespread, but it was on the websites that I visit.
The dark web. Okay, got it.
That reports came out that a Russian hacking group stole every social security number in the United States.
Oh, good times.
Did you hear that?
No, but
yeah, that now I don't.
we need to fact check that. Yeah.
Well, they were reporting it, and they said that some of it has been released already on some websites. So again, now it hasn't been widespread, hit the news yet, but it just kind of goes to show you how. Well, there's been enough data breaches in our lifetime, that really
data breach.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. So anyway, so your social security number is probably floating out there right now.
Yep, and my DNA apparently. 23andMe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Put it in the mail.
We didn't think anything about that.
What could go wrong?
Just putting my swab, putting it in the.
There's a person that looks just like you, somewhere probably in Finland, I think, running a donut shop. So.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know that guy. So, but anyway, so the reason we start there is because today we're going to talk about Equifax, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times in
conversation
that you talk about Equifax. Most of the time I talk about TransUnion.
Yeah.
Every now and then Experian.
Yeah.
Equifax is not in my.
It's because they leaked all of our data or something, right?
Yeah, they
that's
did
why.
that. Yeah. So
they're in third place.
Yeah. So there's actually a fourth one now that they foisted upon us that.
Credit.
Another credit union. It's not just like, oh yeah, they're the fourth one now.
They're in Russia.
Yeah, and they have all our social security numbers.
Yeah, it's easy for them.
So anyway, for those who aren't familiar, Equifax, leading credit reporting agency in the United States, holding vast amounts of consumer data, including social security numbers. They were not involved in the breach I just previously talked about. Just for full disclosure, that was another. That was a data warehouse or an aggregate company, not Equifax.
This one back in 2017. This is like the big Equifax scandal or whatever. Back then. Okay.
This isn't Sam's Equifax. This is the big Equifax.
This is the good one.
Yeah, this is the good one that everybody's heard of. A lot of stuff stolen. So they're basically a critical player. Our system runs off credit and debt, and so these.
It matters.
They're there. They're monitoring services. They're up there. So, in 2017, Equifax suffered one of the most significant data breaches in history, affecting over 147 million people. Mm-hmm. It was caused by failure to patch a known vulnerability in a web application that they were using, one of their online portals. So it was a known vulnerability, and they didn't patch it. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so it's kind of a comedy of errors and ignorance and malfeasance. As they get
just like they left it wide open and just let it happen, really. They didn't know.
Yeah, so the upshot of that, hackers exploited this vulnerability, gained access to sensitive personal information, including our social security numbers, birth dates, credit card numbers, and the breach went undetected for months. So we can stop there for a little bit. You're a credit monitoring agency, and I often fall back on the phrase of you had one job.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
protect this stuff.
Yeah, right. Maybe don't let stuff like that go undetected for months.
Yeah. That was the first thing. I mean, because they weren't properly monitoring their systems. I mean, they were all on-prem. That's where a lot of companies still were. They had all their systems on, and they moved to the cloud. Now they're up in the cloud, and I don't know if they just sort of laid back and said, well, it's in the cloud, what could happen? I mean, maybe there were already, because back in the day when you had things on-prem, you had people who would look over the data center. They would stare at monitors and make sure the temperature was right, because you had to cool the data center, and you had to monitor systems to make sure certain servers weren't getting too hot. And you put stuff in the cloud now, you're trusting all that to your cloud provider. And I'm not giving them an excuse, because even then, of course, you still have to monitor this stuff. And the thing was that they found later is they weren't even monitoring it. That's why. I mean, they didn't just break in, the hackers, and get to the data. It was undetected for months because there was really no one at Equifax looking at the systems. They didn't hide it from people. They didn't know about it. That's a real crime in technology.
Yeah, and I think it's. I mean, my personal grievances aside, I have my credit score of 427. I don't want people to be hacking my credit score.
Is it up there? You got it?
Well, that's after I did the boost.
Up to,
I did the boost
button? Yeah, on 427?
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next week I'll be able
Climbing.
to buy some candy. But, again, my personal grievances aside is, one, I don't really care for I don't want to have to depend on these people, right? But at the same time, I have to. But when you are in a position that you are integral to the lives and you're not being a good steward, I don't have any choice in the matter.
Right.
You have my information. I didn't ask for you to have it.
Yeah.
I didn't recruit you and pay you to do a service for me. Yeah. You just have my data, and you weren't a good steward of it. Mm-hmm. And so I think they kind of deserve all of the ire we can throw at them.
Yeah.
Although now there are people involved, and sometimes people make honest mistakes. But it seems like from what I'm reading, and I don't read a lot.
Yeah. Well, the facts are out now. There's back in 2017.
427 credit.
There was
report,
just
right?
a lot. Yeah, there was just a lot of just mismanagement, no accountability. The other thing that happened, why would they even get in? How did they even get in? Well, I mean, they just also, not on top of not monitoring systems, they just refused to, not refused, they were just negligent. Microsoft pushed out a lot of patches, security patches. We all get them. Hey, you need to update your Windows and on your PC, but they had that in their servers, and they just sat there and stacked up, and they never applied them. No one was looking at the systems. If they would have, if they would have applied the security patches that were sent to them by Microsoft, this wouldn't have happened. At least this instance. Not to say they would never have been breached, but this one would not have happened had they applied the Microsoft patches. And again, we're well beyond the years of this, so we know that was a fact. They just didn't apply any security patches.
Well, no, and we can
free.
come back. Yeah, right. So again, patch management needs to be something that is in your process, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you don't have to do rigorous, what patches are you going to roll out? When are you going to deploy them? Who are you going to roll them out to?
Oh yeah, gotta be.
There needs to be proper testing and management of all
For
that
sure.
alpha groups, beta groups, and all that kind of stuff.
CrowdStrike.
Right, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So, we don't want to just say, anything that it's a patch, deploy it.
Yeah.
I'm not
live
saying
to the world, to everything.
Yeah, you put your due diligence in place, but to not even act like they're important in any way. Let's
Right.
just ignore these and hope the security gets better.
Exactly.
It's foolish. So that's one. They're letting these security patches just stack up and stack up and stack up.
Yep.
Is that you? Are you letting
Yeah.
Who's managing that for you?
Yep.
They had partly due to an expired SSL certificate.
Yeah, which is another easy, low-hanging fruit. It's easy.
I mean, any domain registrar from, I don't know, Namecheap, Domain Monkey, whatever, just name one.
Yeah.
You can buy an SSL certificate. Now, what would my confidence level be if Equifax had from Bob's SSL? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
But it was expired. These are the things they looked into after. They go, how could this possibly happen? And you would expect some crazy scheme that these hackers, which they're brilliant and they can do this stuff, right? But they just tried the first thing, which is there's no way this will work. But you start easy, and they go in easy, and they go, none of these things are applied. Literally, the doors are wide open to anything we need. And so they didn't have to use a whole bunch of hacker tricks. They just went in, There's no SSL that's protecting the data, that everything is just sitting there wide open with all these patches that were missed. And they discovered they had access to literally millions of Social Security and sensitive data for people. It wasn't some genius group. It was easy.
Well, the good news is, if there's a silver lining in all this, that once they discovered the breach, they informed the public at lightning fast speeds of 6 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, first they called, some of them called their friends and said, "Uh-oh, we have a breach. Sell your stocks." And they did, and they made millions. Then they announced, and then the stock dove. But they were held accountable too.
Oh.
Those people are in prison now. But then they figured out ways. They didn't come out quickly. They decided to, how can we shape the message? How can we be anything less than transparent? How do we make this a way, in any way that maybe looks in our favor? Who can we blame? And yeah, it took them a long time to finally let the world know, which was awful. So all that time, bad people have data.
So I mean, just in general, I can be mad about this, right? Because the general lack of concern, disdain for customers,
Yeah.
right? And we can, if we bring that down, I mean, sometimes we operate critical systems functionality for customers who have placed their trust in us to do right by them. And we can't breach that trust by treating them like, oh, you're just a commodity. You need us more than we need you. This system that we have right now is critical to you. So you will just deal with whatever I tell you when I tell you, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, it's too flip. I mean, there's such a responsibility, especially on the IT side. But all company data is important. We talk to our customers all the time just about your business and your business data. But this, as Equifax, the sensitive information that they collect and track is at another level. And you would think that this would be one of the most secure environments anywhere. But you're right, going down to like our customers in the data we work with, they may not be collecting this sensitive information. And many times they're not, of course, but it's still critical to their business. And we treat the smallest client's data with way more care than a company like this, which is, I mean, it's just two different scales, and we are 100 times more careful, which doesn't make any sense. But.
Yeah, so, we look at some of these things. I mean, there are just, again, so much stuff. Deep flaws in their security practices, poor communication.
Oh, the segmentation of their networks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just, well, because once you get in, if you segment in security, if you can segment your data and spread it out and put security in between, you might be able to get into, a hacker get into this piece, but you can't get to everything. So it's still bad, but at least they didn't do any of that. And so when the hackers got into the easy back door, everything was just available. All of it, because there was never any proper segmentation put in place. So which was another thing. So yeah, they got to everything that Equifax had.
Yeah, things are so, they're so interconnected now.
Yeah.
There's so much room for vulnerability, and you have to be right. Yeah, I mean, it's like there's another data breach every time. Yeah. But that breach from Target happened because somebody got into their thermostat on the wall. Their thermostat was connected to the Wi-Fi.
loans taken out in his name and had phone bills ran up in his name. And actually, the guy who opened the loan.
Were invulnerable. Concept of how to communicate, how
Yep.
because they were
Yeah, and well, and you trust us with your data, we lost it. Oops, you know. It's not like they don't watch the news. They're going to take your data. Go out and do what they want to do with your data. I mean, it just makes no sense. So if you do this and then you get caught, and if your only downside is you might have to buy everyone a subscription to a credit monitoring service for a year.
that. I mean, the one maybe asset that they have is their brand name. And instead of, so they put up a reaction website so people could go and log in to see if their information had been stolen.
Yep.
And instead of banking on what but he wasn't a malicious guy.
Because easy target.
But a lot of people are still on-prem. And so as we
Oh, well, yeah, and well, also, I would also add, just because you're on something, and those are open, and now people can get in, they can go through. Safe over there. But when it goes on the migration side, though, is one is, of course, we're signing all sorts of MDAs and all this stuff to make sure that our customers feel confident that we are taking the and you got to take the proper care and feeding of those things, or else. Cloud. And there's different ways to do that. You have to have proper backups. What if it fails?
The OCM component, not just to
Oh yeah.
this is how it impacts. Assuming that some things that TrellisPoint can help.
Third-party products and how